Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life.
What is going on, beautiful people? Welcome back to the 817 podcast, where we talk about politics, business, trends in the lovely city of Fort Worth, Texas. I got my co-host Jimmy Sweeney here. This is going to be our last pod for a while, so the news wasn't generous to us, as if there was a lot to talk about. That was going to hold you over for weeks. But we got a show. You want to break down how we're going to do this show, Jimmy, and how we decided to puzzle things together, piece things together?
Yeah, so usually we'll start with any updates on things we've talked about before and then go into a few short stories that we want to highlight and then have a big story that's either a single news story or a theme that encompasses a few, and then end with our losses and wins for the week. This week, there wasn't really a big story, so we've got like 6 small stories that we're going to hit, as well as some updates. So it'll be a little bit different, but that's kind of what we got going into the holiday week.
Yeah, and we're basically going to be gone until, when's the next episode? December.
We'll miss 3 weeks.
Yeah. 3 full weeks. After the election, we need time off. You know what I mean?
EJ and I did not plan our time away to be at the same time, but it just worked out that we're missing the same time.
He's going to be in Florida. Great, another great red state. It seems like. By the way, I actually saw that. Last week we talked about how the people moving to Texas aren't necessarily making Texas blue. I actually saw a stat about Florida, which proves that to be true as well, where it said, since March 2020, roughly 400,000 people have relocated from other states and registered to vote in Florida. Nearly half of them are Republicans, double the share who registered as Democrats.
Wow.
Yeah, so if that's kind of a reflection to what could be happening in Texas as well. Thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
But you're going to be in Florida, Disney, doing the fun, family, all that holiday stuff. I'm, decided to run away from my family. I'm going to Las Vegas.
Nice.
Going to the Adele concert.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's going to be cool. And then I head to, where do I head to next? San Diego for a company retreat. Company retreat. Since we're a virtual team, we'll all get together in San Diego. And then I have like a wedding. I'm the officiant.
Wow.
Marrying a wedding in like Cancun or something.
Nice.
That's the 3 weeks. So it's pretty good for EJ.
Yeah. If you want to hire EJ to officiate your wedding.
I am Father E at fathere.com. I come in peace and holy matrimony. But yeah, man. Well, let's jump in. Let's go ahead and hit your first update. You weren't the only one frustrated about trash.
Yeah, let's talk about trash, which is what this rollout was. So, we talked last week. It was my loss about how a third of Fort Worth households have a new trash pickup day, but they decide not to tell anybody. We finally, on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, got a letter in the mail about our trash day changing 2 trash days after it had changed. And it seems that I was not the only one. Code Compliance Department did not give city leaders or residents enough heads up about the major shift in pickup routes. Hopefully, this will help lead to balancing some of the load on the trash and recycle contractors so that they are having fewer missed pickups. But I also want to point out, this is something we talked about a long time ago. The contracts for these companies were very recently renewed, and we did not take any bidding on it or anything. They were just grandfathered in. Mm-hmm. It was a point of contention for us, and that kind of lack of competition or entrepreneurial influence kind of breeds laziness, and there's no accountability for residents to these subcontractors because they've got a 10-year contract. Like, there's nothing that we can go back on. And this kind of all the misses that they have had that are recorded in this Fort Worth Report article, and then failing to actually communicate new pickup days, kind of feels like the outcome of that.
Yeah. It says that, I was talking to Mrs. Anzeta at our vinyl night, and she heard the pod before the shindig, and she was talking about how you guys didn't get the flyers that came to your house to tell you about it. And I was like, I didn't see anything. I mean, I haven't been home a lot, but I haven't seen anything, and kind of made a joke. Yeah. It's probably because you threw it away with all the political flyers that you've gotten and just kind of fell in there. Especially since, that one time I transferred to Republican. I'm starting to really regret that, by the way, because now I get double the flyers from both parties. So, but anyways, yeah, no, which creates a lot of waste that's not being picked up now, that's just stuck at my house.
Mm-hmm.
But no, yeah. Did you see that less than 2% of people who were affected by the route actually made a change report or I guess reached out to people? Code compliance staff followed Waste Management's recommendations to distribute cards the week before and week of the change. He said less than 2% of people affected by a route change reported absolute misses, where they needed trucks to come pick up their bins. He added, which we're talking about Mr. Bennett here. Is that...
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in general, most people don't call in missed pickups.
Yeah,
I
I'm
did.
too lazy.
I did, and they were like, just put out your extra stuff next week. We're not going to come back this week. I was like, oh, okay. But I do think that's interesting. It also kind of fell in line with bulk trash, so maybe people were just like, well, I'm just going to toss this on the curb.
Yeah, yeah. Honestly, I was in Puerto Rico last week. Man, we are really flexing our travel game today. But I was in Puerto Rico last week, and man, the people of Puerto Rico, they'll go like, oh, yep, I guess the electricity's out for 10 hours, no big deal. And then I'm like, their trash is stacking. I'm like, man, I'm appreciative of my infrastructure right now, so.
There's a lot that goes into that conversation of what the U.S. does to Puerto Rico.
Oh, yeah, 100%. All right, well, let's go ahead and go into the next story. City considers free parking for residents speaking at council meetings. The city of Fort Worth generates an annual revenue around $140,000 from parking around City Hall and tickets for those who don't renew their meters. Next year, the city intends to cut that revenue dramatically by making parking free for residents signed up to speak at morning council meetings. Residents signed up to speak at the morning council meeting under the new proposal presented to the city council in a Tuesday work session. The city manager's office would buy and distribute coupons to speakers for parking at the Houston Street Garage. Council members expressed support for the measure, which is scheduled to take effect in January, but District 9 Council member Elizabeth Beck wanted to see the city take it even a step further. Quote, it's important to not limit it to registered speakers. If they come into the chamber to attend a city council meeting, they should be enough to warrant free parking if they just showed up. Monty Hall, Assistant Director of Transportation and Public Works, said his office would review the proposal and work to expand it as Beck requested. Currently, the parking rates for the Houston Street Garage range from $3 for 20 minutes to $22 for 12 to 24 hours. Come January, residents seeking a coupon will need to present their parking ticket to city staff, who would then confirm that they're a registered speaker. Once a speaker is finished at the council meeting, they can use the coupon to exit the garage free of charge.
Easy win, Is $140,000 a year really worth making it tougher for people to come to city council meetings? Absolutely not. Easy win. Should be free everywhere, but we'll take it here.
So let me. The city of Fort Worth generates an annual revenue around $140,000 from parking around City Hall, and so they're talking about eliminating that as a whole.
Probably not as a whole.
Cutting it down to half.
Yeah,
revenue dramatically by making parking free for residents signed up. Because who speaks at council meetings?
Which that even cutting it by half seems very generous. I do not believe that $70,000 worth of parking is paid for people to go speak at city council meetings.
Yeah, aren't the big issue that no one comes to speak at council meetings?
Yeah.
If anything, you're giving Bob Francis and Harrison, Star Telegram and Fort Worth Report journalists some free game by giving them some coupons because they're the only ones showing up to inform all of us.
Yeah, acting like $70,000 is going to be cut from this seems pretty generous. This just seems like such an easy win, and it should be free and easy for anybody to go park at City Hall, to go to City Hall for any reason, not just to speak at council meetings.
Yeah. Cool. You want to head to the United Way of Tarrant County Leaders Pledge story?
Yeah, the United Way of Tarrant County has pledged to fundraise $100 million in funds to address social, economic, health, and safety issues residents face during a centennial celebration Thursday in front of Arlington's Globe Life Field. Leah King, president of United Way of Tarrant County, said the celebration was a reflection of its first 100 years of work in the community and how much more work remains unfinished. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Tarrant County's 32nd place ranking for health in the state. Food insecurity rates that sit 40% above the national average.
Wow.
And housing that is unaffordable to at least 100,000 residents. King says, we love Tarrant County, but we need to make sure you also understand that the facts of some of the circumstances that exist in Tarrant County don't lie. I really appreciate the collaboration with local nonprofits, programs, including Braver Together, which we talked to, 1 Second Collaborative, and Mission United. This is a bold statement. But I mean, I feel like Tarrant United Way is so strong of a nonprofit. Leah King has been such an influencer and leader.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone I feel like who can be this bold on something like that, that's the right person. And then if you got young talent like, Dr. Whitney Boyd and Sean Lasseter, and, now you're really pulling a collective force. On top of, you got GM Financial, you got Rainwater, you got BNSF Railway, Tarrant County, Fort Worth City Government, and Paul E. Andrews Jr. Foundation. A lot of strong moving parts here. To me, it'd be interesting how I'm starting to see after the pandemic with nonprofits and organizations that real big legacy organizations are now over inundated with money and under water with solutions and the actual ability to create effective 2022 solutions. We're not still acting like 1995 and doing like book giveaways now that we live in a world. So it's, I don't know, what's your take on it?
Yeah, just seeing this number that like a nonprofit wants to raise, just makes me think about the extra tax that we give to our police departments, like the CCPD fund. Like, I grew up in a county in Florida where we added a 1% sales tax that went directly to education. And like time and time again, I saw my parents and our county vote to continue approving this extra sales tax, this extra penny sales tax to go to schools. And seeing the impact of people like flocking to the district to be able, flocking to the county to be able to go to the schools that were really well funded, just like the talent and caliber of people that were coming out of there, even in the schools that were in rougher areas. Like, you just saw that they were being invested in, and you see the value that comes out of that. It just makes me think if we were giving $80 million a year from an extra sales tax to community organizations like this instead of buying more cop cars, like what that could benefit as far as, having food insecurity 40% higher than the national average, being so low in Texas County rankings when it comes to health. So I hope that they're able to achieve this goal. I hope that the funds go a long way. But it just makes me think more about how our county and city kind of continues to fail in providing a central hub for making this a culture shift in the community.
Yeah, no, I am. To me, my work at, what I do on a regular basis is very part, trying to build tech solutions that makes the world more equitable. But we're a for-profit organization, so the idea is, sustainable tech that can be successful.
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's just I look at my issue today is it's one thing to raise money. The next thing is to make actual skills. I mean, Jeff Bezos just awarded, and again, this is not against the work that she's doing or what she does, but when you receive $100 million award from Jeff Bezos for giving books to kids, that's what you do. In today's world, I don't think the access to books or information is hard with the internet. It's a very reactive. And I feel like, how do you create solutions that fit today kids who are, they're sitting on YouTube. They're just not educating themselves and using Libby or whatever else that they have. I don't know. I guess I just think the solution piece needs to be a lot more technical than backpack giveaways, books, those kind of things that we've been doing since before the internet.
Yeah.
What do nonprofits do now post-internet, that to do with this money?
Yeah.
And a lot of, to me, is the opportunity to me is I would invest systemically that money. Spend $20 million on a software consulting agency to create, a Fort Worth app that does something, to me, that is, could be more powerful than, doing it the other way.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I've been trying to get into Fort Worth ISD for a hot minute, and I got to watch them spend $3 million on furniture, when they could give every kid their own tutor in the palm of their pocket for less than $2.5 million. So it's just priority. The world is actually, to create systemic change, it's actually a lot easier than needing $100 million, honestly. But it's just how we think is what often, in the systems that we're trying to keep up. So.
Yeah, that's one thing I do appreciate about United Way is because they are more of just a organizer of organizations. They work with people that are a lot more in the weeds and in the neighborhoods seeing these systemic issues, and I feel like in that they can have a little bit more positive effect. And I mean, getting a lump sum like this hopefully does lead to those systemic things that feel larger for some of these smaller organizations to get after.
Yeah, 100%. All right, well, let's move to a success that is happening around change. There's a $1 million community center in historic Stop 6 that's being revitalized. Well, what we know is that the 23,500 square foot center has a new $25.7 million investment, which is, they're calling it the Hub. It's a part of the 2022 city bond election and will be in the 5100 block of Avenue G. The new 2,800 square foot building will serve not only as a community center, but also a house, an early learning center, and aquatic center. The existing facility was opened in 1973. Jimmy, how are you seeing this as, what we just discussed, like this being the right steward of funds and how this could help boost, ideally, what we're trying to do is improve 76104.
Yeah, I think this is awesome. Like over in the area by the Dunbar schools, getting an aquatic center, we've seen a lot of debate around Fort Worth swimming pools recently. Like an aquatic center is a big deal for them to have in there. The area has been part of the Choice Neighborhood Initiative grant, and the city and Fort Worth Housing Solutions were awarded a $35 million grant in April 2020 to start transforming the area, and they have started doing that with the demolition of a lot of the projects over there and starting to rebuild. I think having something like this to be a hub gathering place for the community, a place where kids can hang out before and after school and feel safe. I think it's going to be an awesome win for the area.
Yeah. A lot's happening. I feel like one of our other stories is Panther Island, and I feel like you want to talk about an area that's doing better and making moves and investing. Stop 6, 76104, that whole area is, I feel like, true momentum and actions happening.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's inclusive with the community, while Panther Island, I think, is giving no love to Northside residents or culture.
Yeah.
So this is cool.
Yeah. And one thing to add, a couple residents have said that they are disappointed that they're not just redoing the current MLK Junior Community Center, and you're moving it away from a bus route that's more frequently used. Or no, it's moving closer to a bus route, but it's not within good walking distance from the heart of the community. So there will be some growing pains as they figure out how to connect this area to what is more residential now. But long term, I think that, the revitalization here, Las Vegas Trail, just the focus that the city is putting on it, is a positive thing.
Yeah. And this just, to me, kind of bridges, I think this is a great thing because how old the building is and how, the aquatic center, more black and brown kids die from drowning. There's so much benefits to this. But the complaint that I kind of made, or not the complaint, the constructive criticism on what we do once we get a lot of money as a nonprofit is we need to ask ourselves, are we doing something that is 1995 or are we doing something that is 2035? We've been on this pod for 110, 20 episodes, and I've really never talked about what I do. But, our company provides digital student support services to kids, tutoring, mental health services, college advising from the palm of students' hands for the price of $100 a student a year for 12 months. And what do? It's all after school from kids' cell phones. We saw the behaviors of kids. We didn't say, oh, kids need help with services. Let's build a $25 million building to serve this one school. Instead, we've spent millions of dollars to build a virtual platform that allows kids to get it seamlessly, effectively, without the heavy cost of paying for buildings. And all we changed was behavior, right? All we changed was we're trying to do everything in the short school day when kids are in class. Why not meet kids where they are, on their phones, after school, when they have time? That, to me, is a blueprint example of how there's creative, innovative solutions to how to make change that I think I would love to see more people think that way. And so I feel like there's a huge opportunity to think that in home displacement, managing elders and nursing care for older people. There's so much opportunity to think about the how we do things and why is it so expensive to do it that way, and what are other creative ways to just follow behaviors that people are moving towards anyway. So that's to me why I'm so passionate about this work. It's like, it's not just about big money, but it's also about big ideas.
Yeah. Well, since we mentioned Panther Island, we might as well move into the story on that. The Central City Flood Project, more widely known as the Panther Island Project, has a new estimated time of completion, 2032. The initial components of the project should be completed by mid-2029, and the remaining elements, a dam and pump stations, will be completed in 2032. It's a longer timeline than the one originally pitched by the Trinity River Vision Authority. Tell me where you've heard that before. The Army Corps of Engineers previously predicted it would take about 6 years to finish the design and construction of the first channel. The newly released schedule condenses that to 5 years, but estimates it'll take 7 to complete the South Bypass Channel. And that brings into account supply chain issues, workforce constraints, etc. The Corps will sign 5 contracts for the project components by mid-2023, and they're pushing hard to get these contracts because that'll obligate the funds that have been allocated to it. Congress has authorized up to $526 million for Panther Island, but allocated only $403 million to complete the final design for the project. One question I had in reading this was, like, can development happen simultaneously? The answer is yes. Development of the land surrounding the Central City Flood Project can begin right now, according to one of Fort Worth's assistant city managers. The city's received 6 proposals from consultants bidding to work the redevelopment area. We should get an update from them to City Council on December 2nd. I mean, I feel like anything that ever comes up with this is timeline has been lengthened for Panther Island.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, it's cool that things are moving in the right direction. Things are moving. It'll probably be, like, late next year before we see, like, concrete things moving, I think. But looking out 10 years at minimum before this is finished just feels like a long time.
Yeah. I'm afraid that one day this is just going to be a big eyesore in the city and it never finish. And it's like, you remember that big idea project that, some legacy family thought they could pull off that didn't happen, and now it's just this big eyesore that we don't know what to ever do with. Some other positives, though. I mean, Tarrant Regional Water District looks to have done some work, right, with 95% of the utility relocations are completed, 90% of parcels have received environmental cleanups, 90% of structures are demolished, 75% of properties acquired. And, former Water District employee J.D. Granger will not be, like, needing another contract to live off of.
Biggest win of the week.
Yeah. So, what the part that sounded really confusing is that the firm already completed 60% of the design for the North Bypass Channel and 35% of the design for the South Channel. CDM Stanley Joint Ventures is a partnership between Virginia-based CDM and Stanley Consultant focused on engineering and construction. Both companies have offices in Texas. CDM recently posted a job opening on LinkedIn for a civil work engineer related to the project. Previously, project leaders considered using a design-build method to complete the bypass channel. The entails using the same contractor for design and construction in effort to move the process along more efficiently. But to me, what's confusing here is saying that the design was already under the way, but now they don't like the people who longer was using it, so now they're resetting the design? Is that what I'm...
No, I think that it's saying that previously they thought that they might use a design-build firm, but now they are deciding not to. I don't know if those 4 paragraphs needed to be included in this story at all, because I agree it makes it confusing.
Yeah, because I just couldn't tell if they're saying that all the work that has been done on design, we can then pick up and continue to work off of. Or because of the new approach in the Army, we're having to, this quote is, the engineer for the design build won't accept the 60% because they can't put their stamp on it. So they would have to go back and redesign everything that's already been done. So it just didn't make sense. That's the quote.
Yeah. I agree with you that it's confusing. I don't think those 4 paragraphs needed to exist in there, but all it's telling us is that they're not, if they considered in the past doing that, and they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But it also brings up talking about redevelopment of the area. So they have solicited proposals for hiring a consultant to assess the existing plan for the area, perform case studies, develop real estate economic development strategy, identify potential funding sources, explore development potentials for sites like LaGrave and the historic power plant on the island, which I think is one of the coolest buildings in the city. So there's a lot behind the scenes that seems like it's really rolling along. And again, what I've said before, and I'll say again, is that if public transit and walkability aren't the number one priority for developing around this area, then we are having that 1995 mindset approach to things and not 2035.
Yeah.
Because it is very rare that a city of our size, or any city in general, gets to start with this blank of a slate to design whatever they want. And I just have the feeling that we're not going to design a modern city.
Now, you're not specifically talking just about Panther Island.
No, I mean, I'm talking specifically about Panther Island.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Like, we've got the blank slate to start with extending commuter rail that way already, having a robust bus system around the island that connects it to the stockyards, to downtown, to West 7th, like extension of the Dash, making sure that it's dense, mixed use, and walkable. Like, this is the dream. I feel like this is the dream for a city planning college student, or a young city planner in general, to get their hands on and design something that modernizes Fort Worth.
Oh yeah, that other cities idolize. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that starts getting taught in city planning classes.
But even if you just look at like the floating concert vibe that they have there, like, that's what it's gonna be. It's gonna feel like an academy outdoors. Just gonna. The branding, it's gonna get super corporate-y. It's gonna.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna feel like it's gonna take like the little Papados Island that we currently have and just like explode that.
Papacitos is coming back.
Yeah.
Or Papas, whichever one they tore down.
I know it wasn't big enough for the small island, so now they need to go get they needed the new island.
Oh man.
But we'll see, man. We'll see. Well, who knows what we see? Well, me and you might get kicked out of Fort Worth by the time that shows up. All right, well, let's go ahead and move into the final short story that we're covering.
Speaking of kicking things out of Fort Worth, Aaron Dean is trying to get his murder trial kicked out of Fort Worth once again. If this sounds repetitive, that's because they tried to do this last year and it got thrown out. Then they got the judge replaced, saying that he was biased. So now they're trying it again. And I mean, the saga of just trying to get Aaron Dean on trial continues. And it's frustrating.
I mean, what is the worst penalty for Aaron Dean if he gets guilty?
I'm guessing life.
Life in jail?
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess then I would keep postponing it. I was just wondering, it's like, man, are you postponing like 10 years being your sentence, and you just like, just get the 10 years out of the way, and like, because this can't be fun either for him. You constantly keep pushing it back. You've already taken 3 years off your life, so like, this is like purgatory in a way for 3 years for you too, dude. Like, but if it's life, I guess keep doing what I guess you're trying to do to.
And I think the argument last time, is still the same in that you can't have a fair trial here because it's been made into, quote, a racial issue because public leaders have spoken out against it. But, like, public leaders all over Texas spoke out against it. It just doesn't. Part of what the judge said last time was, like, this just doesn't hold any weight because this had a national spotlight on it. So,
and to me the real case shouldn't even be like the whole should Aaron Dean get life in prison. Like, to me, it should be about Tatiana Jefferson getting the right compensation, and the police office paying at least $3 million to the family.
Yeah.
Like, for the mistake, right? Google makes a mistake, they pay millions to states, right?
Well, it's like at minimum, let's say, she was a young person. Let's say she works for another 45 years, making
60,000, 40,000.
Yeah, and she was a nurse, so like let's even say 80,000.
Yeah.
That might be on the higher end of nurses, but still, let's use that as a number. Like, yeah, that's $3.5 to $4 million just right there, not to even
to support family, to help out with bills, situations.
So if like that's on hold for that family also, like, that is an emotional toll for them, not to mention continuing to have to process over and over and over again that this happened.
Yeah. And that's where I think it is like, I think rather than pitting Aaron Dean's face up there and making him the villain here, I think you need to pit the Fort Worth Police Association's logo and, Fort Worth PD's logo and Chief Noakes and all the other faces up there, because their organization should be accountable for the issues of this, like, that happened when the service was called, right? If, cable company comes and messes something up, they pay for it, right? Sorry for the issues, right? Even now, you even got these opioid crises and people getting paid for those things. Like, the real enemy is that, Fort Worth PD messed up, and now you have to give proper compensation and support to the family for that. Aaron Dean on the other side is, did a really terrible thing. And especially in a state like Texas, where Texas, you're allowed to have guns and you're allowed to shoot someone who's on your property. And Aaron Dean snuck to the backyard of Tatiana Jefferson's property and shot her because she had a gun. Now, sure, could that logic make sense if you're in the streets somewhere in a public area? No, but you're in private area. And so true Texans, if you're a conservative Texan, should be pro Tatiana Jefferson getting her rights. Because imagine if you were in the farms of the West Texas and a cop shot you because you showed a gun walking out the door because you heard something in the back and it was a cop.
Yeah. And I'm thinking too about the precedent, the potential precedent that this would set of when this happens again, community leaders aren't allowed to speak up and say anything. Like, if you're saying that I can get a mistrial, I can get a judge thrown out, I can get my case moved because public leaders said something about this, we're setting the precedent that public leaders can't support their community when tragedy strikes. And to me, that's a dangerous precedent to set.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a good point, but it's also given leaders a chance to like now have an excuse to not having to.
Right.
Because Mayor Parker is saying, I have to stay quiet for all of this or it could get thrown out. Like they're using that lingo of like, now we got to lay low. So it also gives you kind of a opt out from having to maybe stand up to something.
Yeah.
So,
not upset your voter base.
Yeah.
And use it as a scapegoat. Totally.
So we will keep going and see what happens next. Ready to move the wins and losses?
Well, we've got one more actually.
Oh, what?
The Fort Worth Guild is the union formed by a number of employees at the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. In November 2020, the Fort Worth News Guild was recognized by McClatchy, but nearly 2 years later, members continue to fight for a fair contract at the bargaining table. The company has subjected them to stalling tactics, stonewalling, and an unwillingness to compromise. As just an example, there are members of the Fort Worth Guild currently making even below McClatchy's own minimum salary floor. If you have followed them at all, you know that they have put in a ton of time and effort to crafting demands and arguments that are rooted in fact about cost of living in Fort Worth, about the needs of our reporters for the Star-Telegram to survive and live here. And McClatchy just continues to come back with no effort, using and giving the exact same recommendations and offers over and over again. In general, McClatchy is the second largest owner of paper news in the U.S., and they continue to use this tactic for a number of news guilds across the country. And it's not fair to the people that put in a ton of time and effort to make sure that we stay informed and hold local government accountable. So they're not on strike yet, but they have launched a strike fund to help potentially support the needs of the News Guild if and when they choose to go on a prolonged strike. They also had a happy hour this past Wednesday at Liberty Lounge, where a portion of the sales were donated to the strike fund. And just to give you an idea of what they're asking for, Fort Worth News Guild has proposed a $57,500 wage floor. Currently, at McClatchy, it's $45,000, and like we said, there are people making under that still. They're proposing 15 vacation days for 0 to 2 years of service, 20 days for 22 to 5 years, 25 days after 5 years. Currently, it is 15 days for 0 to 4 years and 20 days after 4 years. They haven't budged in that. They're proposing a change to 401k employee match contributions that McClatchy hasn't budged on, which that's even crazy to me because that's literally just like a tax write-off for the company. Like, that's why companies do 401k matches, is because it benefits them. Anyways, they're also proposing that both the publisher and guild mutually agree to change employees' beat or assignment for health or safety reasons. Right now, that responsibility or that decision is only held by the publisher. And then they're also asking for a $50 compensation for work-related use on personal cell phone. Currently, it's $25. I mean, it's just like, it's such bottom floor things that McClatchy could easily agree to benefit the people that are working well over what they are paid to do hours wise.
Well, yeah, it's one. Did you read the part where I believe they went on a mental health day, like they all picked a sick day.
Yeah,
and
this
chose
past Monday
was a health sick day. So they're showing, hey, we're willing to do this. And this GoFundMe, which will be in the link to the description, I've already donated to it. The Fort Worth News Guild Strike Fund, they're trying to raise $15,000. And ultimately what it allows them to do is, if they do take this strike, they're able to support themselves while doing so. And so the leverage there is important, and that to me is the kicker here. My stance on human responsibility is often why I was inspired to do this with you and talk about this pod. The challenge with all of this is that it takes sacrifices from everyone, including you and me. And the only people who sacrifice are the journalists. Being a journalist has to be one of the hardest, underappreciated job. Outside of like people who probably take care of elderly people or special eds teacher, like we're talking, it's a lifestyle job. Like you don't get days off. You always have to be on. And then you got to get ridiculed by people in power for you just trying, keep people accountable. And so then now let's talk about McClatchy, right? They're a private equity firm who owns all these people. And they are probably in a deadbeat business. They probably don't got more money. They're probably not making record profits. They're probably not, because it's a dying company. It'd be like JCPenney's, people fighting for JCPenney's to give them more money. But it's a dying org. No one. So then I say to me and you, who don't, if like this is a part of where like I often feel like paying businesses what they are worth. Like if we always only pay for the discount, the Groupon fee of Star Telegram, we never create revenue for the path of how readers keep their subscriptions today leads to the bankruptcy of newspapers. It just does. It is me and your action as well, and how we spend money on news. That you're right. We could say, F it. Like if there's a scapegoat, this is the same way rich people talk about taxes. But if we're people who buy the news only when it's Groupon, $4 a month, and then when it hits 30, we change our email. This is why it's a three-party problem. It's not fair to the journalists. It's a dying business. It's something we all know we need, but no one wants to pay for to keep it up. And that is a challenge when a civil good is like journalism. Like I would compare journalism as important as cops and firemen, but they're not as supported. So unfortunately, the real issue is that should even journalism be a capitalistic foundational thing, where the Fort Worth report, their structure seems to be maybe working out for them, where they can pay the wages. We don't feel like us regular people have to keep a subscription up, so it's just a really ugly situation all around.
See, I disagree with you on the McClatchy piece, because McClatchy is a private equity firm. They have a shitload of money, and they are monopolizing newspapers across the country, and they're not doing it because they're not making anything. Private equity fund is not going around buying up newspapers everywhere because it doesn't benefit them. And so I think that the company and nationally the other big private equity firms that are buying up newspapers and really destroying local news in a lot of ways push that agenda to try and underpay their reporters, try and cut staff, try and make it harder for our newspaper teams to spread themselves enough around the city to hold more and more people accountable. This is to me like a behind closed doors, room where it happens type of thing, because they're doing their best to make sure that people don't think that they're making money.
I agree with you. But if you and I only pay $4 a month every time and take the best discount, it's not an economically sustainable business. It legitimately isn't. that is a true, like, it's
I
a
guess
part
where
of
we-
how do we value the service, also ends up being like what we put our money into.
Yeah, I guess where we differ on it is that I don't care if it's profitable for McClatchy, because I know that they are doing.
Yeah.
If this were owned locally, if this were owned by the Star Telegram, 100,
we wouldn't have this issue.
100%, I would agree with you. But because they have been bought up by a national firm who is trying to monopolize or consolidate the industry, I don't care if they. So I in fact
want them to go bankrupt. Exactly.
To suffer.
Yeah.
Not at the expense of the journalist and the team behind it, but so that somebody can come in and allow them to actually thrive the way that they have in the past.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. The issue with the reason why the McClatchys have been able to buy newspapers is because we weren't paying for journalism for a long time.
Yeah.
These things were going.
They got so cheap.
Yeah. We were bankrupting these organizations, and so we need to value it the same way we value museum tickets and being members of museums or our favorite restaurants. Like, if I always hate when people are like, oh, my favorite restaurant's not here, and I'm like, yeah, you only went on half wing night.
Yeah.
Sorry, it's not here. Like, a part of us don't got to realize, like, we are like, and it's tough because I agree. This is where I hate capitalism in the sense of the McClatchys of the world who are just trying to, private equity is like the worst thing ever in anything, and it's in schools. It's not just it's in journalism. Yeah. It's in hospitals.
Yeah.
It's happening to so many people. But private equity usually can buy up bad businesses because it's usually businesses that we started undervaluing. And so there's a human behavior part to all of this as well.
Yeah.
And if we care about journalism, at least this goes directly to the journalists, right? The guild,
yeah.
Right? So it's, and hell, I'm pissed off. I'm calling Star Telegram the other day because let's be clear, I got charged $62 last month for my subscription. So I'm calling Star Telegram. I don't know what the heck happened. Maybe my subscription is over. They put me month to month. I don't know what happened. But I'm calling that bad boy because that's higher than my Wall Street Journal. That's higher than my Economist. That's outrageous. And I believe the standard $30 a month I was paying, cool. But I agree with you. Maybe you're right that you inspired me to think, well, maybe I should constantly change my email, pay $4 a month for journalism so that McClatchy does die. That actually, I support that initiative and taking that action step. So all in all, I just think it's hard because at the end of the day, the people who work at McClatchy are going to have to find new jobs.
Right,
We're going to have to
right.
lose money. We're going to have to lose Star Telegram reporters. And now we're back. I mean, luckily we do have the Fort Worth report, which we still don't know how well they're doing. So all in all, and interesting to follow. The reason why you don't hear this in stories is because why would Star Telegram or Fort Worth report this strike? So who knows? There could be a month where you're not getting news. And who knows what you and I talk about.
Yeah. But truly, like, we also bring this up to highlight, like, hit the link in the description to go and donate and support these journalists. They do a great job. They're some of the most valuable assets that we have in the city, and we need to support them as such. And hopefully it doesn't come to it. Hopefully hopefully McClatchy shows up next time and actually wants to take things seriously. But right now they're just playing the role of union buster, which is not good for anybody.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you, journalists, for all the amazing work you do. You truly inspire us here at the 817 Podcasts. So I'm seeing this. McClatchy's revenue growth from 2016 to 2019 is a negative 27%. So, I mean, you've lost a quarter of your revenue in 4 years. While the cost of humans are just getting more expensive because the cost of life is getting more expensive, which you can blame capitalism again with higher rents. And you talked about inflation. People get mad at inflation costs, but that's because humans are costing more. And humans cost more, but capitalists still want to make more profit, so they still charge higher prices. So it's an ever evil monster. But to lose a quarter of your revenue in 4 years is a bad business.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to wins and losses.
I'll start with my loss, talking about losing restaurants. I feel like the South Side is in an interesting pivot point right now. Fixture just announced that they have closed its doors after 8 years on West Mag. We love Fixture, great spot to hang out. Harvest Bread Co's for sale. The Pantry was short-lived, but I've seen that they're permanently closed. The Dusty Biscuit has put out a call for help. Yeah, I just feel like if you love and appreciate somewhere, like, make sure that you continually go and support it in whatever way you can. And that doesn't even have to be financially. That's like telling your friends about it. Like going out of your way to support their social posts. It all makes a difference. And obviously the financial piece too. So yeah, I feel like the South Side, like, rents have gotten crazy for those buildings. And I don't think that these will be the last places to that will lose in the near future. I think also it's been taking longer to fill in these spots. And so that's kind of a bummer as you lose some of the, like, anchors or culture setters in an area.
Yeah. It's interesting what's going to go there, because it was such an iconic spot. Fixture was there for brunch, I used to live over there. I used to love taking people there.
Great patio.
Yeah, great patio. This kind of gave me the Cannon vibes when I lost Cannon.
Yeah.
I was so sad
Oh
when
my
we lost
gosh.
Cannon.
Yeah.
$5
or recently they've been $6 old fashions and a couple other drinks all the time. Yeah.
My loss is basically among Texas adults. Texas continues to lead the nation in the number of residents without health insurance. Among Texas adults under 65, 29% didn't have health insurance last year. The national uninsured rate is 12.6%. So just wanted to say, hey, expand Medicaid, Medicare, make it happen. But that's not going to happen under our current red wave we reintroduced to the world, back to power.
Which it's wild because other states in the South, like, are expanding it.
Yeah.
Like Texas just continues to try and identify itself. It's got this, like, little brother syndrome or little brother complex of not being included in the Confederate South. And now it's, like, trying to make itself identify as much with them as possible.
Well, the reason why I bring this up as a loss is that, the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, is opening to January 15th. You can have open enrollment through healthcare.gov and realize that you can also get assistance and support by people who can help you understand the different publicly available health plans for you. You can contact JP Health Network. Call JP Health enrollment eligibility at 817-702-1001. So that's my loss. What's your win?
My win is the holiday stuff going up around Fort Worth. The Christmas tree arrived in Sundance Square this year, which I was happy to see after they decided not to put, like, the pumpkins and stuff out for Halloween and fall like they have in previous years. But that's in the process of getting decorated. There's a big light show at the Botanic Gardens going on right now if you go there at night. And by the time you're listening to this, the Parade of Lights downtown will have passed, but another mile marker event for the city. So I enjoy this season, this time of year a lot, and it's fun seeing all of that start to come out and see what can happen when you make spaces like Sundance Square appealing to locals.
Do you feel like do you feel like this is the one thing Sundance Square does really well? Is like public holiday stuff, like New Year's, Christmas.
Yeah.
Seems to be like, man, really got a strong groove on that.
Yeah. And it's the one time of year that they like really try to cater to bringing locals to downtown. And you see what it does. Like the vibe around downtown changes, and it becomes a much more fun and much less transient place to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Mine, wow, 2 wins for downtown. We got that. And then mine is the Premium Hotel that is opening in the 1920 Tower. The Sandman Signature Hotel is going into the 20-story Wagner building built in 1920 at 1810 Houston Street. The 245-room hotel redevelopment has preserved and restored the interior finishes of the tower, which is listed on the National Register of Historical Places. This will be the second Sandman Signature Hotel in the United States. The brand is a part of Vancouver-based Northland Property. We love Canada here and on the 817 podcast. The company's president, Tom Gagliardi, has owned the NHL Dallas Stars Hockey Club since 2011. Interesting. Which suggests why the first Sandman Signature Hotel in the U.S. was built in 2018 in Plano. He also owns Texas Stars and the American Hockey League. I'm excited for this. I've now truly taken advantage and been aware of this like weird, cool hotel scene we have downtown. And so to add to that seems cool. Like I'm excited to, I was at the Kimpton for a wedding and I was like, man, it's vibey here upstairs in the bar. You have the Worthington doing their new stuff. There's some, the Sinclair. I need to do a better effort. And my goal, this December is explore downtown hotels, swanky little bars, and see if there's anything that, is good for locals, And if you got recommendations, anybody out there, send them my way.
It's like it's starting to remind me a little bit more of like downtown Memphis. Like downtown Memphis has a great hotel scene. That's
one of my favorite cities.
It's not super catered to locals at all. You've got the theater down in downtown Memphis. You even have the river that runs. The Mississippi running right there. Our river's a little bit smaller and a little bit more removed, but I'm kind of starting to get that like downtown Memphis vibe a little bit. I just never feel compelled to go there, even though like Kimpton Harper is awesome and I'm excited to check out this place too.
Yeah.
It also, speaking of old buildings, like we talked about the TXU power plant, we talked about the other things on Panther Island. Big A+ for preserving old buildings and not tearing them down for something new.
Yeah. Well, beautiful people, thank you for listening to the 817 pod. We went over an hour for you this episode. We came with nothing, ended up with something, and it's going to be our last pod for 3 weeks. So, maybe you just listen to half of it and you listen to another half.
Take it in thirds.
Yeah. Share it with a friend, and then maybe one day you'll have a discussion about
Listen to it at Thanksgiving dinner.
Listen to it at Thanksgiving dinner. I'm sure that go well. But I appreciate all of you, and hopefully you guys have great holidays, Thanksgiving. We'll be back 3 weeks from now. So before Christmas, we got some cool interviews set up with the Chief Innovation Officer of the city of Fort Worth, and a couple other exciting stuff coming. So thank you guys, and until next time.
Yeah, have a great holiday.